Hi guys, Billy back. This is just an update on my 1/6 scale kit bash of Bill the Butcher that I've been doing. When I first originally did the video, I got some, some good feedback, some bad feedback, mostly bad if I'm honest. I was on the search for a Bill the Butcher, and obviously the Rainman situation had been that they dried up, and if you wanted to get anything from Rainman, you'd have to buy it on the secondary market, and it was going to cost a fortune. So I started looking into how else I could do this figure. I found that the Sweeney Todd figure itself from Hot Toys, it had era-specific clothing to Bill the Butcher. So I started looking into what I could do there. And while I was looking around and doing my research, I found out that Rainman had reopened, or the orders for the original Bill the Butcher head sculpt, painted by Aeon, I think it's pronounced Aeon, rather than Rainman himself, but they had announced that they were going to be putting it up for order and that you could order through their website. So I went on there, and lo and behold, I put the order in. I didn't say anything in the last video. I did say I was getting a custom head sculpt, and I was just hoping to see if that went through, simply because I did not have 100% faith in the website. It's not the best website in the world, and I wasn't sure whether or not it was an error. I could have put the order in and then got an email a month later from them saying, sorry, you ordered this. This isn't actually up for pre-order. This is an old item. Don't know why it says buy it now, but didn't want to say I'm getting this and then it never turned up. So yeah, I decided to put the pre-order in and hoped it would process, and within 3 weeks, just 3 weeks from ordering, I thought I'd be waiting months, but 3 weeks later this little box here turned up on my doorstep, and inside it was an official Rainman Bill the Butcher head sculpt. And wow, as soon as I opened it I was so impressed. It looks so good. It really is worth the money, and I was so glad to be able to get hold of one. It was one of my dreams for ages to get a Bill the Butcher, but you have a budget in your head for everything that you do in life, and the Bill the Butcher figures myself, although they're beautiful pieces of art, I didn't really want to slap down $1,000 or maybe even £2,000. They keep fluctuating in price all the time, these things, on a figure itself, when you can get a few more figures. Dabbled a little bit in looking for all the different kinds of clothing and bits and bobs I could do. Now I could have got a custom made knife belt, I could have got custom made clothing. Gee whiz, apparently were like $350 just for the clothing and belt set. It's about $100 odd for like real metal knife and belt set from certain customizers out there that deal with this sort of thing. And it was just the price of it was just going up and up and up. I couldn't really afford it, so I cobbled together what I could and made the best figure that I could out of it. And luckily I managed to secure the Rainman head sculpt, so everything else was surplus to requirement. Everything else was just there to try and show off that head sculpt. That's all it was there for. It was just like an art stand with the actual real piece of art on top of it. That was what I really wanted, was that head sculpt, and I got it. One of the sad things was I had to hollow it out and customize the head a little bit to fit on the body that I wanted, because a lot of the bodies are too short, and the Rainman head sculpts are genuine 1/6 scale size. So the actual head sculpt here is a little bit bigger than some others. So I started messing around with all the different bodies I've got on display, and I found that the head worked best on the Blitzway Tyler Durden figure. So I went ahead and looked online, and I found at Toy Anxiety they had a Blitzway Tyler Durden body. It was good and tall, it was fitted really well, so I ordered that. And then when it came, I realised that, the head sculpt was completely different colour to the body, and, there's all these different problems that come through. But I just wanted to do something really nice, and, I didn't mind taking my time with it. I tried to do the best that I could with the skills that I have. Those skills aren't many, but it's what I could do. So this is actual figure. I'm going to show him without the coat on in a minute, simply because I wanted to put the coat on and show everybody what he looked like with it on. Someone did me for not putting the coat on in the last video, but I didn't want to show it off until it was ready. But that's the actual coat that Iris made. It's a really nice, super thin, really lightweight, really nice looking weathered quality coat, and you couldn't find a similar one anywhere else. You had to find one specifically made for Bill the Butcher, just because there wasn't anything else similar out there. But I just wanted to show you with the coat on. It's a little bit difficult. The arms are a bit thick. The sleeves, the rolled up sleeves on this are a little thick. So it took ages to get this coat on. I don't think I'm going to pose him with the coat on. I'd like to show off the knife and belt set that I've got and you know, the vest and the shirt and the rolled up sleeves and all that type of thing. So I'm going to do it without that, most likely, for most of it. If I can actually shrink down the thickness of the cuffs a little bit, there's a bit of bulging here because of the cuffs of the shirt, and these arms are really thin. So I would rather be able to have it look a little better. So if I can thin down the rolls of the sleeves a little bit, then I can just have this on him sometimes, but not all of the time. But for the moment, I'm going to pose him without the coat. I'm going to have the coat next to him on a possibly just a stuck body, just to show off, and then we'll go from there. Anyway, that's the coat. Next thing you're going to see is him without the coat. And here he is out of the coat. First and foremost, like I said, I had to doctor the head sculpt, so there was a bit of trembling going on, and I was nervous as hell, simply because I did not want to damage it. Sadly, I did damage it, and it was heartbreaking. I had to Dremel the inside of the head out, and some sort of vibration happened, and a tiny little bit of the tash snapped off. So I had to remodify and resculpt a little bit and stick it back on. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination anymore, but I won't notice it really. I don't think many people will, so I'm okay with it. Next up, we had to remodify the body. Now, the body was Blitzway Tyler Durden one, and it needed a different paint app because the skin of the Tyler Durden is very dark. Exactly how dark it is compared to the Bill the Butcher version. You can see there is a lot more darkness, very tanned Tyler Durden. And that was very difficult to actually figure out how to get the colour right. I still haven't got the colour right, if I'm honest. I know I've not. Don't worry, guys. Anything you notice, I've noticed twice as much because I've been staring at it the most and doing the work on it. I tried to get as close to the colour as I could, and every time I actually went there, you know, it was either too yellow or too brown or too pink or too white. It just doesn't get there. It never does. And it's, you know, I've layers upon layers to the point where if I put any more on, it'll probably all crack and fall off this rubber body. So there's no point really. It's good enough. I'm happy with it. I put the head on it, and I'm happy with the actual colour as it is. It's only there to show off the head sculpt mostly, so I'm okay with it. There's paint flecking and there's little freckles and stuff on the body, on the arms and the body and stuff. I put all the detail into it. When you come in real close, you'd be able to see that. I'm trying not to zoom in too much because I'll probably end up causing some problems. As you can see, actually, just about see some, I think. There's some flecking and some real skin texture there. The next issue I had after that was the legs. The legs are very thick and the trousers are very skinny. So when you put them on, he looks like a modern day hipster. You know, he feels like he should be trolling around Shoreditch with his handlebar moustache and these super tight trousers. I didn't want that, so I went through and I remodified the legs and the arse. I thinned them down as best I could. I had to Dremel off layers upon layers of the actual thigh muscle. But it got to the point where the legs were becoming so thin that they were going to be brittle soon. I could see the seam, and I could see if I Dremeled any more, there wouldn't be any leg there left. So it's as small as I could get, skinny as the legs I could get for this specific character, but I couldn't go any further than that. Also, the foot pegs on the bottom of this thing are really fat. They're the fattest I've ever seen on any 1/6 scale body. So I could not use the normal 1/6 scale feet that you normally get with these figures, because the peg here, or the holes for the feet here, are much smaller than the pegs on this actual figure. So what I ended up doing was I ended up filling the shoes with milliput, and while that was sort of solidifying, I then popped his legs into the actual milliput so that it would create a little reservoir, a little hole, so that he could at least put the shoes on and off, and I could pose them and turn them left and right. I'll show you them in a minute anyway. But also I am contemplating going back to the slightly bigger shoes, because now his feet are a little bit small, and to be honest, they might be a little too small. So I might be going back to the bigger old classic style shoes that he had before. However, they are a little rubbery, and they just feel like a little bit long, but I think I could just about get away with them on this guy now. But then I went back and I got a it's actually, ironically, it's a Redman shirt. This shirt is actually from one of the Good, the Bad and the Ugly characters from Redman. I think he probably ripped it off someone else, I'm not sure, but I saw online it was a Western shirt for a cowboy, and I thought, well, that would work actually. It's very similar to the Civil War shirt, But this Civil War shirt is actually really big, and when I stuffed it all into the trousers, it thickened out the waist too much. It made things a lot more difficult than they needed to be. So I decided to go back and get one of those Rainman shirts. It was really cheap online. I think it was about $7 or $8, and I just added it to, I think it was on Toy Anxiety, so I just added it to the Blitzway body and they came together. It was like a cream white colour. So I had to go in and weather the damn thing, and I made it all sort of disheveled and discoloured, like it's a piece of clothing that Bill the Butcher wears. His shirt is sort of off-white, more like a grey colour. It's a bit like something you would have worn back then, you know, over and over and over again. You'd wear the same clothes on repeat, you know, and you'd wash them and wash them and wash them, but you'd still wear them until they fell off your back. You still wore them. I re-dyed it with lots of fabric paint. I put some fabric paint in some water, warm water, grey, grade it up, and just dumped this in and let it soak up all that paint. Then I brought it out, hung it to dry, got a hairdryer on it, did some messing, did it back, put it back into the water again, brought it out, did a little bit of weathering, a bit of dry brushing, and it comes up really good. I don't know, it might be a bit bright under this light and it might reflect a bit more white than it should, but it is actually a really nice off grey colour. I went and got the waistcoat. The waistcoat is actually the Sweeney Todd one that I showed everyone in the last video, but obviously it had two lapels here going down the side, and it didn't look that good. It's still not amazing. I'm not under no illusions, guys. I don't think this is better than anybody else's. I know what it is, but I tucked in the lapels on the inside, wet it down, and then made it so it's solidified, straightened out, and lost its creases. And I've got to put the button back in there. I need to snap that button back on there. But it does look a bit more like the original waistcoat from the film, I think. It still crosses over here, which is a shame. I was going to see if I could get a seamstress to cut it down, because it's very hard to get the waistcoat unless you want to throw loads of money at it. But I think it works, and I'm glad that I managed to find that workaround for it. I then had to go down and think about how to do the sash. So the sash there is actually just a piece of fabric that I bought, and I used fabric paint, and I just painted it basically. I painted a big strip and I gave it the red, white and blue, and then I put some tassels on it. I tied some tassels with some nice blue thread, and then I frayed that thread so that it was a bit more tassely. It's probably the best way to describe it, and that went on just around the waist with the waistcoat just over it there, just to hide some of the blue like he does in the movie. And then we come down to one of the bits that was a bit more of a labour of love for me. The original knife belt that I had, I made myself as well, but it was just a little bit too thin. It was too flimsy. I knew exactly what it was. I said in the last video, these are all just ideas, prototypes that I'm working on, and it's going to be improved in time. So I went back to the drawing board and I readdressed a lot of the issues. I made a new belt. That's a brand new belt on the whole thing. I used the original buckle from the original Sweeney Todd belt, but this is a larger belt to fit around a larger waisted figure. So I've made that, and I made the belt loops. I think actually I made one belt loop, and the other belt loop here I think is actually from the Sweeney Todd belt, so I don't mind. And then of course he has the thicker leather, I don't know, guard I think it is, or extra belt to hold the knife holsters, probably the best way to describe them, to hold the knife holsters a bit better, and you know, to sit towards his body and keep it still a little bit better. As we come around, we can see that I've put these knife holsters and these knife belts together. As you can see, I had to cut this down a little bit, so there's a little bit of weathering missing there. That will be improved. I will do that again. As you can see, this is a double belt, and these are all thicker now. These are all twice the thickness of the original belt that I showed in the last video. I doubled up the actual pleather, and then I restitched it all and weathered it on the edges. Made it more, I don't know, made it more solid, made it more firm. And then of course we've got this double one here that I made, which is just there, and this holds the knives inside. Going to try and get these knives out because these are all handmade as well. I made these with styrene and basswood and coat hanger wire for the divots there, and I've weathered it and used brushed metal techniques to try and give them a knife look. And this is one of my favourite bits. This was something I did after an afternoon. I just took the knife, and this is one of the knives I saw, similar to one of the knives I saw in one of the kits that was being passed around under the Builder Butcher movie accurate knife sets that people were sharing. And the handle is actually, I think it's 5 different pieces of basswood. And what I did was I stuck them all together, and I just casually, while sitting down on the sofa watching something with the wife, I just casually just sat there and began sanding it down, just sanding, till I got a complete wooden handle. As you can see, you probably see it there on the top there, you can see there's a separate piece of wood. And then I weathered it and brush painted it myself, dry brushed it, gave it some different colouring, some old weathering, that type of thing. Butcher knife set, and there's some weathering needs to be done there because I cut it down a bit more to show the thing, but the handle pops up inside there into the holder part there and then goes in, and it does fit. I did make sure it does fit. And here's another knife I made. Sorry if you hear a puppy whining or barking, it's simply because she wants to get in the room and I'm not letting her while I do the video. She's not getting in, I don't care what she says. And then we got this part here, which is a little bit similar to the ones from the film. I need to sand that down a little bit more this side, but it's mostly just to stay inside the holster. And they fit all, they slot in really nicely. As you can see, there's all weathering on the edges here and trimming. These are all hand stitched by me. I doubled up and I made sure that they fitted a little better. And then of course we have the knife holster for this one here. Like I said, all the holsters hold the knives perfectly. And then if we go in, we can see we got the butcher knife there. Okay, take 2, minus the dog freaking out. Let's see if we can do this again. Yeah, as you can see, I've upgraded the butcher knife set. I've also done a bit more work. The original one in the video was this one, as you can see. Oh my god, what a piece of shit that was. Yeah, yep, I did that one and this one, which still is not too bad, I don't think. It could be better, but it's not as terrible. Could actually work as another knife for him. Obviously the handles are more dark now, and as you can see there's more weathering on the actual blade itself. I've also worked it so that the actual curvature of the butcher knife works properly. It's still just sharper this end, thicker this end, and I've done the handle so it's curved. Done a curved handle there with the divots in. Like I said, I just sat there relaxed, just watching the TV and slowly sanding these things down. And then of course we have this knife. It's a little bit too thin here. I overdid it there a little bit, but I can live with that. You got the hand guard here that he has. You can see a lot of pictures and a lot of other people use that version as well. And that's him with his butcher's knives. That's the belt. Now the trousers are like one of the big bones of contention people have about my attempt to make this figure. Was them thou trousers is they're not brown pinstripe like in the movie, but they are era accurate, and it's very hard to find brown pinstripe trousers in 1/6 scale. Kind of like the coat, they're kind of specifically made for Bill the Butcher. You can't just go into any 1/6 scale kit bashing shop and go, oh, I'll have some brown pinstripe trousers please. They'll just laugh you out of the bloody the virtual shop. Anyway, so yeah, I decided to go with, at least these would be Victorian pinstripe trousers, so they kind of work. There's something you can't see, which is because they're the Sweeney Todd version, they actually have underneath, they actually have the braces go in, and they actually still fit over his shoulders, so the braces go up, which is really nice. One of the things that the Sweeney Todd figure really did nicely was the small details in the actual figure that you would never notice. When you take the brown waistcoat off, the inside lining has like a very nice Victorian style inside lining with patterns on it. They didn't need to do that. They could have just used a plain, simple, old lining. No one would have noticed. If you took that off the actual figure and showed it to anyone, everyone would just be like, yeah, well, what do you expect them to do? It's not like they need to see it. But they went the extra length and they did like a paisley type design inside for the lining of the waistcoat that you will probably never take off the figure, or super rare would you ever take off the figure. That's the kind of details that figure has, and you know, it's on this figure now. Not perfect again, like I said, but it's probably the best I can do. I just hope people appreciate that that's the best that I can do. What was one of the comments on the last video? Someone said, why would you bother doing this? I think I might be over quoting them or under quoting them a little bit, but I'm doing this on the fly. They said, why would you do a piece of shit figure like this when you can buy the real thing, or, you know, buy the Redman one that is coming out soon? Well, there's a couple of simple answers to that. Is one, then Redman isn't doing this figure. He's not doing this version of the figure anyway. He's doing the red coat version. Two, why do this figure? Well, why not? If you need to ask the question why for anything, I think, who was it that said that? I heard on Kevin Smith, the director, said. He said, when people ask you why, you should always reply with why not. What's the reason for not doing something? What's the point? Give it a go. I mean, yeah, there are other versions out there. I could go out and throw loads of money down and buy a Bill the Butcher Rainman full set that was originally released. But, you know, why paint a painting of a lighthouse when there's loads of paintings out there of White Houses? You can go out and buy a white painting of a White House. Why do it yourself? Well, why not? You know, give it a go. It was something to do. It's a hobby. It's a challenge. I saw the knife belt and I thought, I'll give that a go. Maybe I'll mess it up. Maybe I'll make a big mistake. Maybe it's a big pile of shit. But I'm giving it a go. Anyway, as you can see, the feet on this figure are a little bit small, if I'm honest. The shoes worked really well with the original body I had because they was a smaller body, but this is a slightly larger body and the shoes are a little stubby. So that's why I said I was going to try and get these and redo these, maybe weather them up and give them a bit more class, because they're quite simple and basic really, but maybe they'll work again. So I'm going to add those shoes on there. And obviously you can see I saw this stand on eBay. They were selling these Bill the Butcher stands, and this is a slightly more comic style to it, like a t-shirt logo more than anything else. But it kind of works. I really like it. I could have gone with the more classier American, like, Civil War flag sign design they had, but I don't know, I really like the look of this stand, so I decided to go with this. I might get the other one in the future, or I might actually get Stoney to make one for me. That'd look nice, I think. But yeah, that's it, guys. That is simply my Bill the Butcher 2.0. Like I said, I'm going to improve the shoes. There's a couple of more little bits to do here and there, but I think it came out okay. It definitely helps to show off the actual head sculpt itself. It's not perfect. I know it's not perfect, guys, but it is there to show off that head sculpt, and that is such a nice head sculpt. And also, guys, here's just another quick update. This is the original head plate head sculpt next to the Rainman version. Look at the... You see what I was working with originally? What I was thinking about working with, and when it arrived I was like, no, that's not going to work at all. That's why I said it was just a placeholder for the actual Rainman version that was coming. It's just a placeholder. Look how tiny and shit that is. Oh my god. And I was trying to work with that. How could you work with that? Look at the peanut head on that. Jesus. Really crappy. Look at this thing here, look. Really, yeah, crap. And crap. Shite. But then I got something someone sent me, a friend of mine. He said, oh, I've got one that I bought and I didn't need it. And it was this version. I don't even know what this is. But it looks like it has the potential to have been a knockoff, but it's not really. It might be another version's. But you know what? The actual sculpt of the head is okay. It's just this part up here is super wonky. Look at that. He sent me this just because he wanted me to show it. Looks like someone's wonked his head, like someone's bent it in the middle, isn't it? And then, of course, you go around the back. But that was a little better than, say, the head plate version. I'm glad he sent that to me to share. But yeah, we got a discussion about it, and he said, yeah, I've got one of those really crappy knockoffs. And I said, what, the head plate one? And I showed him the version I had, and he said, no, I've got this version. And he sent me that, and I was like, fuck me. I didn't even know that thing existed. It's weird. And he said, yeah, it's a bit crooked. And I said, oh, well, never mind. And he said, I'll send it to you. And you can show it in the video. And I said, okay, cool. So that was it, guys. But as you can see, nothing compares to that Rainman sculpt. I'm telling you guys, it just looks so good. But yeah, those are the pitfalls I fell into. The foot pegs, the colour of the body, the thickness of the thighs, difficulties of getting the shirt on with the coat as well. The head sculpts, those were a couple of the things that I had to worry about. The thickness of the neck with the head sculpt, clothing modifications that I had to do. Again, why bother doing any of this? Well, why not, you know? But that's it, guys. That's my Bill the Butcher 1/6 scale custom figure that I've made. I say custom because, you know, I did some modifications and some bits and bobs to it myself. I didn't make the head sculpt. Rainman, the man himself, made the head sculpt, and everything else is surplus to requirement now. It's all just there in service of that fine head. And that's it, guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this was a bit more of an improvement from the last 1/6 scale sort of custom video I did about this guy. But if you could just do me a favour, if you could just get the fuck out of my cave. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.